Zoom work.
Okay. I don't look my age either.
Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Office of Diversity Intercultural Life. My name is Cherie Marks. I serve as Director of Diversity and Intercultural Life here at North Park University. I do not do my work alone. I do my work with Dr. and the Dean of University, Nguzo Saba, who is here with us today, as well as with the Assistant Director of Diversity and Intercultural Life, Marcus Payne III. And together we celebrate, acknowledge, and work hard for diversity, equity, and inclusion on the campus of North Park. Today is part 3 of our Intercultural Awareness Month celebration, where we are looking at the intersection of Christianity with other faiths and beliefs. While North Park University has the 3 distinctives: interculturalism, city-centered, and being Christian, we do acknowledge that this institution to our students is open faith. And so we are exploring the different religions, cultural beliefs of other persons represented on our campus in the student body, but also how they have connection with Christianity. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to create difference, but we want to celebrate, acknowledge, and understand further our connectiveness between the two. And so today is a personal favorite holiday and cultural tradition of mine, Kwanzaa. I have been celebrating it for almost 18 to 20 years, and I did so by the way of our speaker today, which is also near and dear to my heart. Tinene Scott is an educator, she is an advocate, she is an agitator, not only for our family, but also for the city of Gary, Indiana, and now in Indianapolis, as a person that is holding her bachelor's and her master's degree working in social work. She found it necessary to not only make sure that our family was understanding the reason for the season, which is Christmas, which we learned from our lesson last week when we explored Hanukkah in the intersection of Christianity, making sure that we saw the connectedness of Jesus Christ in that. But Kwanzaa celebrates the African traditions, which I am a member of. Tinene going to Atlanta and getting into higher education, decided to bring this tradition to our family. And so while I have presented on Kwanzaa many times myself, I thought it was best that I respect my elder of being able to properly introduce Kwanzaa to our community and also give us more information of the holiday. And lastly, be able to start to have understanding of its intersection between Christianity and the cultural religion itself, and so cultural tradition itself. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Tinene Scott, who is our presenter today. She has a PowerPoint presentation, and we thank you so much for being with us all the way right now, I believe Indianapolis, Indiana, or Gary, Indiana. So she is not with us in person, but we thank you so much for your time. And most importantly, without further ado, I want to make sure we give it over to Tinene Scott.
Okay, first and foremost, I need to get permissions from my elders to continue to speak.
And today our elder will be Dean Nguzo Saba.
Yes, I give you permission to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Hotep, everyone. Thank you, Cherie, for that wonderful and gracious introduction. I definitely appreciate that. I'm glad that you and your sister and the rest of the cousins really paid attention and participated in all of our Kwanzaa celebrations. And I want to say thank you to all the members of North Park University that had something to do with putting on this presentation. I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. Next slide, please.
Get to the next slide. Oh, turn on.
Oh, and on that first slide, you will see my name and my son, Michael Scott. Michael Scott is my teenage son who helped put this PowerPoint together. All right, Habaragani. Habaragani is a Swahili term, simply means what's the good news. And this is a term that we use during Kwanzaa to simply ask our friends and family what that day represent. So today we're going to pretend that today is the first day of Kwanzaa, which is Umoja. So when I say Habaragani, you all just simply reply Umoja. Habaragani.
Umoja.
Very good, very good. And you just do that with every day of Kwanzaa. All right, next slide, please. Okay, with all of our Kwanzaa celebrations, we always begin our celebrations with the singing of Lift Every Voice and Sing, and also the saying of the pledge by the UNIA. UNIA stands for Universal Negro Improvement Association, which was created by Marcus Garvey. So some people may have heard of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift Every Voice and Sing is the unofficial national anthem for African Americans throughout the diaspora. Lift Every Voice and Sing has 3 stanzas to it, and we sing all 3 stanzas. I know a lot of people probably just know the first one, but there's actually 3. And to honor James Weldon Johnson, we do sing all 3 stanzas. Okay, and just like for the American National Anthem, we rise for this song. And so let's please rise. And just for the sake of time, no, let's go ahead and sing all 3. We have time.
We do. And so I will say that one thing that we have been learning with Lift Every Voice and Sing is that first and foremost, there are 3 stanzas, like Tinene has explained. Number 2, there are words that the Johnson brothers created. Please respect their words. I know that as we are trying really hard to be intercultural, there are some words that might feel uncomfortable to some, but please respect the authors. They were very intentional with their words. And so I always showcase the Lift Every Voice and Sing, arranged by Roland M. Carter, and also sang by the 105 voices of the History National HBCU Concert Choir, HBCU standing for Historical Black Colleges and Universities.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings, ring with the harmonies of liberty. So the next slide. They're singing Stony.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was saying the next slide because they were singing Stony the Road We Tried,
Yes, ma'am.
but now we're on the last one. So God of our weary years.
Yes, ma'am. I will go back.
Okay, can we go to the slide with the pledge?
Yes, ma'am. Can I sit? Or no?
Okay, yes. And also, after we say this pledge at the end, there's Kwanzaa, the word Kwanzaa at the end 3 times. The first 2 times we say Kwanzaa, we just say Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa. But the 3rd time we say Kwanzaa, we hold the word Kwanzaa as long as we can. Okay, so allegiance of the flag of the UNIA. Here's to the flag of mine, the red, black, and green. hopes in the future bright, Africa can have seen. Here's to the rid of it, great nations shall know of it in time to come. Red blood shall flow of it, historians shall write of it, great flag of mine. Here's to the back of it, 400 million back of it, whose destiny depends on it, the red, black, and green of it, oh flag of mine. Next slide, please. Here's to the green of it, young men shall dream of it, face shot and shell of it, maiden shall sing of it, waving so high. Here's to the whole of it, colors broad and pole of it, pleased is my soul with it, regardless of what is told of it, thanks to God for giving it, great flag of mine. Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa.
And we do have a African flag that is here at our platform. Tinene, you can't really see it, but that's what it looks like.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, our agenda. Okay, we're gonna talk about today the purpose of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa's, oh, I was just gonna read off
I'm
everything
sorry.
on that.
Didn't know I went for it.
Okay, the purpose of Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa's origin and creator, what Kwanzaa means, the Nguzo Saba, the principle, the colors of Kwanzaa, the 7 symbols of Kwanzaa, KARAMU Celebration, and Kwanzaa connection to Christianity. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the purpose of Kwanzaa. The purpose of Kwanzaa is simply to honor our African heritage throughout the diaspora. Diaspora meaning the world. Even parts of countries in Africa also celebrate Kwanzaa. We are to celebrate freedom, being alive, and just being happy and things of that nature. Next slide, please. Okay, Kwanzaa's origin. The word Kwanzaa, it was supposed to have 1 A. The word Kwanzaa with 1 A simply means first in Swahili, and that signifies the first fruit of the harvest. Kwanzaa is celebrated from December the 26th to January the 1st. Next slide. Okay, our creator is Dr. Maulana Karenga. Dr. Karenga was born in Pearsonburg, Maryland. He was the last of 14 children. His father was a tenant farmer and also a Baptist minister. When Dr. Karenga graduated from high school, he moved with his brother in California. And there he attended Los Angeles City College. He also graduated from there as well. And there is where he began his activism. Today, Dr. Karenga is known as a Black nationalist, an author, a college professor, a filmmaker, and of course, the creator of Kwanzaa. And one may ask, why did he decide to create Kwanzaa? Well, his thoughts came out of the Watts riots, or the Watts Rebellion, which I call it. This was a rebellion that happened back in 1965 in Watts, California. This is when 2 unarmed Black men were stopped for a traffic stop. They were assumed to be under the influence, driving while drunk. So 2 officers stopped them and pulled them over. And it was alleged that when the 2 men got out of the car, they resisted arrest, and the officer commenced to beating them, brutally beating them. And this caused a disturbance in the city, an uprising in the city that lasted 66 days. And this unrest, unfortunately, 34 people lost their lives. After this, Dr. Karenga knew that there had to be a change. We need to do something to change ourselves so that we can also help others. So that's where he got the idea. The second A from Kwanzaa simply came from when Dr. Karenga had his first Kwanzaa presentation in 1966, and there were 7 children there, and each one of the children wanted to represent a letter. So Dr. Karenga just simply added the A. That was pretty cool, huh? Okay, next slide. Okay, Nguzo Saba. Nguzo Saba in Swahili just simply means 7 principles. And the 7 principles that we're going to talk about today is Umoja, Kujichagulia, Ujima, Ujima, Nia, Kaumba, and Imani. Next slide, please. All right, the colors of Kwanzaa. As you all can see there, I see Cherie has the colors on the Pan-African flag there. We have the colors, the red, the black, and the green. The red, black, and green are also on the candles. So the red represents the struggle that we go through as a people. The black represents people and us as African descendants. The green represents the land and the future that is to come for us and our people. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so in the celebration of Kwanzaa, like I said before, Umoja is our first day that we celebrate. Umoja means unity. At the end of each day of Kwanzaa, so on December the 26th, we would light the candle, the black candle. That would be the first candle that we would light for Umoja. We will gather as a family and sit around and think about and talk about the things that we have done on that day that can represent being united or represent unity. Okay, second slide is Kujichagulia, which is self-determination. Now, when you light the second candle, let me make this. When you light the second candle, you do not use a match to light the second candle. You simply take the first candle and you light it. And as you light it, you say Kujichagulia, which is the second day. And Kujichagulia is self-determination, basically doing things for yourself. And just like with the first candle, you would sit around as a family and think about the things that you have done that is uplifting that you did for yourself to enhance yourself, to improve yourself on that day. All right. And so for the, I'm sorry, next slide. Okay, which is the third day, which is Ujima. And on the third day, we light a green candle. So we just simply take the red candle and light the green candle. Trying to hold them so they won't fall. And like I said, day 3 is Ujima, which is collective works and responsibility. What did you do with your community or in your family to help solve some problems, to help work through some things on that day? And note that these principles are not to just be celebrated during Kwanzaa. These principles are to be celebrated year round. So you can talk about the things that you have done, not necessarily on that day, but that you have done to represent Umoja, Ujima. I'm sorry, Umoja was the first day. All right, next slide, please. Ujima. All right, so what we do is we take the green candle and we just simply light the red one. Ujamaa. Meaning cooperative economics. Now, simply on this day, what we do is we go out and support our own. And because I am an African-American, I go out and support as many African-American businesses as I can on that day. Even if it's going out, buying some jewelry, and I have a couple of things on me now that are from some people that have made things, simply going to a restaurant that is owned by African-Americans. Those are a couple of things that we do on that day. And like I said before, don't just support them on that day, but definitely, particularly on that day, support our own.
Miss Tinene, can I say something?
Uh-huh.
So one thing that I do, and for those that are here with us and listening, is let's say you ran out of money due to Christmas. Another thing that you can do that's significant for our Black business owners is making sure that you also promote Black businesses. So this is the day that I would go on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and start promoting every single Black business that I have purchased from or plan to purchase from in a year, or that I'm personally connected to. That is my dentist, that's my OBGYN, that's my girlfriends and brothers that have Black businesses. It could be anything from DJing to different personal services that they provide. My hairdresser, anyone that has a business, I make sure that I promote them on that day as well. So you don't have to spend money to participate in this particular day.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what you young people do. I don't have Facebooks or Instagram or anything like that. But yes, definitely promote, even if it's by word of mouth. Like I say, I don't have those things, but I definitely tell others about what's out there. Okay, next slide, please. Nia. Nia. Which simply means purpose. What is our purpose? Why are we here? What are we meant to be on this planet for? I know some of you all are college students and you all go to college, and a lot of times y'all can filter through and figure out what your purpose is by trying different things and praying and just trying to figure it out. But to some of us, it came pretty easy. My purpose, God told me my purpose when I was 8 years old. I thought that I was going to be a music teacher. I did end up becoming a teacher. I didn't do the music teacher thing, but purpose, that is something that everybody has. Everybody has a purpose here. So that's what Nia is for. Next slide, please. Kumba, creativity. Kumba. Okay. Most of us are creative people by nature. We just have to do things to try to bring our creativity out. One of the things that I do is I write, and I write poetry, I write children's books, I do different things of that nature to pour out my creativity. But on that day, just do something creative. I know one time I took a group of children to a painting party. They had a painting party at one of the local malls there in Gary. And they went there and they got to have their own little canvases and create their own little pictures. It was pretty cool. So do something that's creative and create. All right, next day, which is Imani, our last day. Imani. All right. Imani, which is mean faith. Actually, my niece's middle name, we named her from this Kwanzaa as well. Faith, without faith, with me, nothing is possible. If I didn't have faith and believe that God would give me the strength and the energy to be able to speak on here today, I wouldn't be able to do it. If I didn't have the faith to believe that I could become a teacher, that I could become a business owner, I would have never been able to do those things, but I did. And because I had the faith and believe that God gave me the strength and continue to give me the strength to do the many things that I do. Okay, so this is the Nguzo Saba, our 7 principles. Next slide, please. All right, now let's talk about the 7 symbols. Okay, the first symbol is Mazeo, which is our crop. And as you can see here, I have different fruits and corn here as our crops. And you can have any type of crops. Next slide, please. Okay, the makia, which is our mat. And I don't know if you can see it, but I don't want to lift it much because there's fire right there. Put it down and you all can see that I have a mat here that the Kanara is sitting on. Okay. Cherie, I didn't see, do you have a mat there? I see you have them.
I forgot it this year. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
I do better.
That's fine. Okay, next slide, please. It's the kanar, which is the candle holder. As you can see here, there's all different kinds of candle holders. You see the type that the sister has right there on the screen. And then I have one here. With my kanara, I simply have a symbol in the middle of it, which is an ancient Kemetic symbol meaning life. And they come in different forms as well. The most common one is the wood form, but they also come in plastic and different other materials as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the mahindi, which is the corn. And throughout the years, I used to have all different types of corn or whatever, but today we just have the regular corn on the cob. Next slide. Okay, the Kikombe cha Umoja. And Cherie has one of those there, which is simply our Unity Cup. And she also has the libation that goes into it. Libation simply is water, simply means water. Some people also put juice and wine in their cup, but what we do is we use the water. And what you simply do is you take your water and pour a little bit in the cup. Okay. And then I know we're not outside, but what we do is we pour a little bit out to represent our ancestors who are no longer with us. And once you do that, oh, that's a good idea, Cherie. Pour it back in the. And once you do that, you would take a sip and then we would pass it along. But of course, we're not going to do it, COVID issues, things of that nature.
And this is also a tradition that in some cultures or some culture references, you might see this as, you know, spilling something out for the homies. It actually has an origin, which Kwanzaa then re-represented in its traditional celebration.
Yep, definitely.
But it actually comes from an African traditional heritage and tradition.
Right. Next slide, please. All right, we have the Zawadi, which is the gifts. And normally the gifts are something that are like handmade, homemade. I have different things over here. Bracelets and necklaces and earrings that I've showed you before. And they also could be presents that have meaning too. They don't necessarily just have to be homemade, but they have to have a purpose and a meaning. Next slide. Which is the Nguzo Saba, which simply is our 7 candles that we have displayed. Right, next slide. All right, our KARAMU celebration. This is a celebration that happens on December the 31st. It is a celebration where we get together with our families, where we eat, we show off our different talents, we show off our creativity, we rejoice, and we're thankful that we're all there together. That's when we pass out the Zawadi for people to do their gifts. And also during this time, you create different traditions. And one of the traditions that we do in our family during this time is that we honor our ancestors with fruit. And I believe Cherie has some fruit there for you guys. If you can give those who in the room a piece of fruit, please.
Done.
Okay. What you say?
Done.
Oh, okay. So simply what we do is we take our piece of fruit and we call out one of our ancestors' names. Now, an ancestor doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's passed on. An ancestor is simply someone who's older than you if you just want to honor that person on that day. And you would take that piece of fruit and we put it in our basket. And every member in the family and every person that is there simply does this. So I believe our elder has left the room, so I can go first.
Yes.
Okay. Priscilla Scott. Okay, now you guys.
Nilly, May, Reed, Steele, Robertson, Owens.
Auntie Crystal.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so that's what we do. One of the traditions that we do when we are celebrating the KARAMU. Okay, and before we go to the next slide, I normally ask a couple of questions. Next, we're going to get into how this is in connection with Christianity. From what you all have learned so far, does anybody have any thoughts on how they simply can relate this to Kwanzaa and Christianity? What type of connection is there?
Mark, Director Payne, do you have any connections?
Yeah, I think something that we lose in Christianity is honor of the land and our elders. And so this celebration to me just shows the importance of making sure we honor those who come before us, but also honoring those in the parts of the world that also give to us. And so I see that being a connection in Christianity, as well as with Kwanzaa.
Okay, awesome. Definitely, definitely.
And then for me, one thing that you will notice about a lot that has already happened is that Christianity, the reference of God, is within a lot of elements. And so the allegiance had the words God, lift every voice and sing still had God. And So that not only allows inclusivity of Christianity, but it also allows those that might have different gods from ourselves or different forms of spirituality. They can insert those words or reference to that. And so I'm always proud that I get to then infuse my Christian religion within the words and the acts that are already in Kwanzaa and a lot of our traditions and heritage.
Okay, yeah, great connection, great connection. Okay.
Oh, I was going to add something. I've been on the line in the quiet in the background here, but
Hello.
I really appreciate the community aspect, the focus on the collective, right?
Mhm.
Understand that you fit into a community and you're one part of it. And I think that's a big connection between Christianity and Kwanzaa that I've learned about today.
Okay, great. Definitely a connection,
And
Okay.
before we go any further, I want to respect one of my elders. Thank you so much, Dr. Frank Gatan, who is our Vice President of Student Engagement, for joining us today.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.
AKA my boss.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is some of the ways that I see the connection with Christianity. One of the things is Dr. Karenga foundation is in Christianity. He was born to a Baptist minister, and a lot of his views and a lot of the things that he speak on and talk about in here, it comes from his upbringing. There are 7 principles, there are 7 symbols, and as we know in the King James Version of the Bible, it states that those number 7 is God's completion number, and we'll talk more about that. Also with the Unity Cup, Unity Cup is used in Christian churches, and we'll talk more about that as well. And all 7 of the principles are spoken of in the Holy Bible. Our last principle is faith, and we went over that. We'll go over that a little more too. And also during Kwanzaa, a lot of people fast and abstain from food. And this is often done as a way of cleansing, the way of cleaning the mind, the soul, and the spirit. Next slide. Okay, so we'll get into the significance of the number 7, the completion and the perfection. So in the scripture, 7 symbolize, if you go into Genesis, it symbolizes completion and perfection. As we know that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, but on that 7th day, he rested. And so he wants that for us as well when it comes to our work cycle, for us to work for 6 days. And then on that 7th day, we are to rest and have that day as a holy day in honor of God, which is our 7th day. And also with the number 7, it's a lot of references with the number 7, but I'm just gonna touch on a few. Also with the number 7, when Jesus was on the cross and he made 7 statements out of agony while he was on the cross, about to complete his journey here on earth. And there were 7 of those statements, and they are listed here. And I also have the references to Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. And you know, this is how great Jesus was and continued to be. When he made those statements, he was simply talking about one of the thieves that was next to him hanging on the cross, because he was fearing that he would, go to hell and not spend eternity with God for the things that he would do, that he did. But this is what Jesus said to him in response. which is, I felt was definitely really awesome. He was in pain and in agony himself, but here he is thinking about other people. And that definitely shows to the end how Jesus truly loved us, and he loved his people. And there's a few more. Woman, behold your son. Then he said to the disciple, behold your mother. My God, why have thou forsaken me? I thirst. It is finished. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Next slide, please. Okay, here's a few more significance with the number 7. This is when Jesus was talking to about 7 people, and they were asking him, what should we do? And what should we say when we pray? How should we pray? And Jesus just simply gave them the Lord's Prayer. And the Lord's Prayer contains 7 petitions. And that's, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil. And that's a prayer that my family says. Me and my children definitely say that prayer mostly every night. So that is a prayer that God gave to the 7 people to ask. Jesus gave to the 7 people that asked, what should they say when they pray? So that's the significance of the number 7. Okay, next slide, please. And this is the Unity Cup, the Kikombe Child Umoja that we talked about, where we did the demonstration when you're pouring out the libation and simply passing it around. Now, if this is done in the Catholic Church, normally when the priest, he gives the cracker, which is the blood, another stands and you take a sip from the cup and then they pass it around. Communion is also done in a lot of other churches, but not necessarily with one cup. You have your own cup in a lot of other different churches, but in the Catholic Church, they simply use the cup. All right, next slide. Okay, so how each principle connects to Christianity. And the first one is Umoja, which is unity. There are a lot of scriptures that you can find to make connections with all 7 of the principles here, but I just got out a few so that I could give you all an example. And when we go to Ephesians for Umoja, when we go to Ephesians 4:2-3, live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Next slide, please. With Kuji Chakalia, self-determination, I put about 4 because there was a multitude of that in the Bible. And as you can see on my slides, most of the time I use the NLT version of the Bible because that's the Bible that gives me greater understanding. So, blessed is the man that endured temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to them that live. And let's go ahead and do another one. By standing firm, you will win your souls. All right, so the next slide. Yeah, you go ahead to the next slide. Okay, which is Ujima, cooperative working responsibility. And I use the scripture, which is one of my favorite scriptures about 2 or more people working together. It says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. And that's simply true. I remember one day when I was trying to get some icicles off of my roof. We had a real bad storm and it was icicles. So I'm out there by myself on a small ladder trying to get the icicles off. And lo and behold, I reached a little too much and I fell off the ladder. So I'm just laying in the snow, hollering for help because there's no one around to help me do this, when I simply could have had one of the kids or somebody to come out there and help me hold the ladder, and we could have got it done faster and more efficient if I would have had more help. So I definitely look back at when I did that, when I'm remembering this scripture. Next slide, please. Okay. Ujima, which is cooperative economics. And there's a multitude of scriptures in this one. One who is gracious to a poor man leads to the Lord, and he will repay him for his good deeds. And he said, then he said to them, beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own. For even when we are with you, we will give you this command. If anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. Next slide. All right, Kumba, creativity. And the most creative thing ever God did, which was create the heaven and the earth. You can't get no more creative than that. You know, that's a high bar to try to help set with developing and embracing your creativity. But that's pretty awesome because you don't have any limit. Reach for the skies when you're doing and you're creating. Next slide. Which is our purpose while we're here on this planet. Commit your actions to the Lord and your plans will succeed. When you commit your work to the Lord, he will establish his purpose in your life. So if you constantly do in God's name what you're supposed to do, by living your life correctly and spreading the good news to others, letting your light shine to others, your purpose will come to you, and God will help you cultivate that purpose and help you fulfill that purpose when you do those things. Next slide. Imani, which is faith. And we know that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. We don't see God, but we see God in everything we do, and everything that we see, we know that these things were created because of God. This space is here because of God. To go more into the number 7, we know the rainbow, which has 7 colors in here, is because of God. We know the 7 seas is because of God. We know that our being is because of God, and we just have to have the faith to believe that because we can't see him. Okay, so this basically ends my presentation. I have a couple of bonuses, which is watch night. Someone had asked me what watch night was. And one of my nieces did this at one of our Kwanzaa celebrations before, so I thought that I would put this on here. Watch night, which we call it on December the 31st, New Year's Eve, where we go to churches and celebrate. Do we know why we are celebrating? And here's why. We celebrate that because back in 1862, African Americans, and back then it was still some Africans, got together that were slaves, got together in different churches and in different homes, and they got together because they were anticipating 12 o'clock. Because at 12 o'clock, it became 1963, and in 1963, the Emancipation Proclamation actually came into law, meaning that slaves would be free on that day. So what they did was they simply got together and just praised the Lord and danced and sang until 12 o'clock hit. And then as soon as 12 o'clock hit, they knew that they were free. And that's why we have watch night in our churches today. Next slide, please. I can't hear you. Cherie, are you talking?
Yes, I put myself on mute, sorry.
Oh.
This is also another reason, North Park University, I made sure that when, during the newsletter for December and January events, I did honor watch night, knowing its significance to the African-American community. It isn't just a night where we go to church and we make sure we're there, but it is to honor what was to happen in January 1st, 1863, really being a new year of freedom. And so again, while a lot of these traditions, we just go through the motions and not really understand the significance, there is a meaning to why we do the things that we do. So that's why you will see a lot of African-American churches pay a lot of homage to New Year's Eve and making sure that you are within the church.
Okay. And I just, the last two slides are just some recipes. There's just some recipes of some pretty good food that you can do with your family when you're having your KARAMU celebration, or you can, cook this whenever. But what I try to do at the KARAMU celebration is introduce a dish that is different, that no one has ever had before, that they can try. So, do we have any questions?
For anyone that's in the room, are there any questions that you all might have for Tinene? The one thing I will say to everyone is that, again, me and Tinene are relatives. She is my first cousin on my mother's side, and I affectionately refers to her as my sister cousin. She helped raise me. And the one thing that I have loved about Kwanzaa and why we celebrate it as a family is that it really makes us spend 7 days to reflect about our community, our heritage, our ethnicity, our descension from the African continent. And it also allows us to kind of move away from the commercialism of Christmas and really honor what this season is about. It's about really looking at, first of all, self, what can I do to improve, be better in my community, my purpose, but also then coming back to family. What does that mean? What is our heritage? What are our traditions? Let's honor those that have passed on or those that are here. One significant thing that I love that we do at this very big celebration that Tinene actually holds every single year is that we get to hear stories from our elders, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, even our aunts and uncles about the realities that they faced in America and growing up. And so that we don't forget what we came from, even in the different generations that we are a part of. And so I really appreciate having 7 days to reflect on not only my culture and where I came from, but also my family and what matters most. Any other questions for those in the room or thoughts?
Okay, well, I definitely appreciate everyone that are on the live and who's in person. And again, I definitely appreciate you, Cherie, for bringing me on to talk about Kwanzaa.
And I also will honor the different sources that Tinene is an educator. And so she made sure that she has different sources that are located here so that you can make sure if you want to go read about Kwanzaa yourself, you can do that. This is a tradition and a holiday that anyone can celebrate. However, we do recommend, I'm sure Tinene agrees with me, that you do find a friend or mentor who is practicing Kwanzaa, and that you really first learn. So putting these items in your home, buying the flag, doing all that would be seen disrespectful to some if you are not really reflecting on the African American traditions and cultures, and more importantly, the African traditions and cultures. And so make sure that you are mindful of that, but we love folks educating themselves on this particular holiday and tradition. But thank you so much on behalf of the Office of Diversity and Intercultural Life here at North Park University. We want to thank Tinene Scott for her wisdom, her guidance in our presentation today. This is being live streamed on our Facebook page as well as our Instagram page. And then it will be uploaded to our YouTube page so that you can learn more about Kwanzaa all year round. And thank you so much, Tinene, for giving us this information and allowing us to honor Kwanzaa a few weeks early. And lastly, just want to thank you for bringing this in my life. Again, we both celebrate Christmas and then we go straight into Kwanzaa. And so it is a wonderful, wonderful tradition that I have the honor of doing. So thank you so much. Our next part of our series will be happening in January. So please make sure that you join us in January as we go over several different holidays that are respect to the Latin or Latin American Christianity religion. Also looking at Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year. And lastly, looking at different customs and holidays within Hindu. So you aren't going to want to miss those. And then last but not least, we have our annual 2022 Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. celebration that is going to be happening a few days after MLK Jr. Day, which is a day on in service and not a day off. And that will be happening on Wednesday, January 19th with Catalyst on campus in the Anderson Hall. We'll be having Yorkie Berry join us all the way from New York. So please make sure that you are in the space and in the place. We'll end the presentation here and thank everyone for attending.
Thank you.
I will stop recording. And then I will stop this.
I should see you studying, writing papers, on Instagram, on Facebook, I want to see you working. Just library time, work time, all right? Taking my step out.
Do you want some wine, sir?
Huh?
Do you want some wine?
I'm gonna take a sandwich when I get back in.
All right.
Which is which?
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I didn't know that one label. You grab a service too. They ain't no barbecue sauce, you know?
First of all, hold on.
For barbecue